I'm going to try to do more of a vlog style on this trip to St. Thomas. Look how beautiful it is. The U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, and a bit of St. John. This is Graciously Gloria. Thanks for joining today. So in this video, I try to do more of a vlog style, so I will be inserting different videos of my recent trip there, as well as different pictures, and I'll do some commentary to give you some great tips about traveling there. So let's jump right in. So we arrived on a Sunday. When you get there, there's a couple different options as far as transportation. You can either take a taxi or rent a car. Keep in mind, when you're renting a car, they do drive on the other side of the road. So my husband was a little weary of that and decided, let's not rent a car, let's do taxis. I would think overall you would probably spend less money if you rent a car, but it might be similar in pricing depending on how often you are using a taxi. We end up using the taxi quite a bit, and that did add up. Now, they do have some set taxi prices if you're going to take a taxi to your resort, and I'll pop in a picture there. And what they do is they kind of pair you with people going to the same resort or resort right nearby. So we were going to the Marriott Frenchman's Cove, so it actually did just drop us off there directly, and there was a few other people going to the Westin, which was next door, so then dropped them off. So we didn't even have to wait. We just got right to our resort. It was about a 20-minute ride to get there. Now, a few different tips about the taxis. You're going to meet people that will want to give you their information and kind of call them up more as like a private taxi. And so you call them ahead of time and say, can you pick me up here or can you take me there? And they do charge a little bit more money for that service. So just keep that in mind, but it is nice again also to know somebody who is going to take you places and you can count on. But we did find a lot of taxis readily available too. So a couple options there. Now, our one taxi driver, he did take us to a little great breakfast spot on the way to dropping us off somewhere one day. So that was a little great tip. And he had a yummy bagel breakfast sandwich. So an idea there too is just ask them for tips too. Now, they do have different taxi tours, and I will speak of that just shortly, about one that will do either a group or individual tour to take you to several sites. So I would recommend that too. Resort, really cute and colorful. So we have the 2-bedroom villa. It has a kitchen, dining room, living room. Look at the ocean view. Amazing. This is right off the bedroom. Bathtub. There's a second bedroom, 2 beds, and also a great view. Let's go ahead. Just check out this balcony. So lovely. The water is so blue. Look down here at the shoreline. So when we arrived, we wanted to head over to the beach, and right there in Frenchman's Cove, they do have the beach there, and did find lots of people snorkeling or swimming in the water. The water is nice and warm in St. Thomas and clear, so highly swimmable, and it could be a little bit some spots like slightly rocky-ish, so you might want to bring some water shoes for that. And we ate there at the resort. Now, a lot of times the Marriotts are not known as much for their food, I would say, at the timeshare locations. I'm not talking about the regular hotels, but more at the timeshare. They usually just have like one place to eat, and the food there can vary, I must say. So, but this one, I was really impressed. It was called the Sunset Cove, and they had lovely fish tacos. And oh my goodness, the sauce on there was delicious. So I would definitely recommend that location and getting the fish tacos there too. And we also did a evening sunset cruise, so I'm going to pop in some videos of. All right, everyone, welcome aboard, and we're going to do the sunset cruise. All right, on the sunset cruise, isn't it beautiful? Yeah, I love a fun sunset cruise. If you've seen my other travel videos, because it's just fun to get out on the water and see a lovely sunset and get some photos. Now, this one had a lot of drinking there too. So if you love something called a painkiller, they were just giving those out like water. Now, you could ask for water, and they did have some appetizers, but they were like another another painkiller. I only really wanted like one or maybe two. So it depends on, if you're going for the like a drinking cruise, that could be one of them. But if you're just there for the sightseeing too, that's fun. So definitely recommend that. And that leaves right there at the Marriott. We did eat dinner next door at the Luna Mar. So to get to the Westin, they have a little shuttle that will take you over there from the Marriott, or it's a little quick walkable path during the daytime. In the evening, though, we did take a shuttle over there, and we had a burger, and they had some fun, lively music. My husband and I were kind of playing like Name That Tune, like how quick could we catch the name of the song, and he really is good at that. But so that was fun. It was a lot of songs we knew. Now, the next day, Monday, I had on an itinerary like let's go to Coral World or Lindquist Beach. Now, Coral World would be a great location if you wanted to, let's say, like swim with the dolphins. But my husband said, a lot of times I'm taking us out and about once we get somewhere. And he was like, we're right there at the beach. Our resort has a beach and a pool. And why can't we just hang out a little bit more at the resort? So we did that. And it was fun to be there at the beach there because, like I said, it's very nice and warm to get in the water. I did end up going, though, to Charlotte Amalie for lunch. And what was fun is they do have a water taxi that takes you over there. So Charlotte Amalie, and I've heard it also called Charlotte Amalie. So either one. And I asked our captain on the little ferry, and she said, call it whatever you want. People accept both those ways of saying it. But she said it's the one place where you would want to walk down. She would recommend walking down the dark alleys. And so it really wasn't dark because it was daytime. But her point was that these alleys are like safe and fun to walk down. And each one is kind of unique and has lots of different shops and restaurants off each alley in that town. Good morning, day 2 from St. Thomas. Today we're going to do a short ferry ride over to the town, Charlotte Amalie, and check that out and have some lunch there, then head back to the resort and enjoy the pool and the beach and a sunset dinner this evening. Mason Amalia, you got paella, and I got fish cakes and grilled chicken. It also has a great area for shopping for jewelry. So if you wanted to get, like, let's say diamond earrings or something like that, and my husband got me some for Valentine's Day. I'm going to do a video in the future about me getting my ears re-pierced. That's a whole separate story there. But they have great prices because it's duty free. So you're going to spend less money because you don't have to pay all those taxes. Depending on how much you spend there, you get, I think, up to $1,600 worth of duty free when you're going back that you don't have to declare, and so no taxes on that. Afternoon at our beach there at our resort, and then we made over to dinner at Isla Blue, and that one I'm popping some video there. That was over at the Westin, and it had a lovely location of a view of the ocean, and I had lobster. It was delicious. So I would recommend dinner there. It's a little bit on upscale, dressier kind of restaurant, and I think you'd enjoy that. Tuesday was the day of our guided tour. So I mentioned some of the different taxi services will do group or individual tours. We signed up for a group tour, but we ended up actually just being the only ones on the tour for that morning. And so that just worked out fine. And it was through JS Tours, would highly recommend them. Our tour guide was so great, and so he was just so informative, giving us lots of stories of history of St. Thomas and different sites we were seeing, and really said, ask him any questions and wanted us to learn. And I thought that was super interesting, and took us to the town Charlotte Amalie. And then we had lots of different locations. There's different views like Drake's View. Oh, we went to Paradise Point. Take like a bucket ride that goes up there, has a lovely view. But we drove up there, lots of different windy roads, but the drivers there know how to handle those roads well. And especially those taxi drivers, they drive them often. And like I said, that so many different scenic points, they take you there. And then we went to Blackbeard's Castle. So that one, you do either need to pay to get in, or they want you to just like get something at the souvenir shop. So we just got things like waters and iced tea at the shop there, and then we're able to go up the steps and see the view there. And so I'll pop in some photos of that. Now, my favorite view was at the mountaintop, because that one was just so lovely and a panoramic view. And you saw Magen's Bay, which was just such a lovely shade of blue in the water. And it's just a great photo stop area. That mountaintop store, famous for their banana daiquiris. Now, the line was really crowded to get a banana daiquiri, so I decided not to wait for that and did some shopping instead. I got this necklace, if you can see that there, and enjoyed that. So they had some great shopping. Our taxi driver did say he thought that was a great place to do some souvenir shopping, that he thought found the prices to be good prices. And he actually lived a while over in North Carolina, so he knew, comparison for different shopping compared to there. Wanted to see a garden. I love to see a garden, so we went to Fantasy Tropical Garden. They're known for their orchids. I found out this is not the time of year that they're blooming as much. It's more like in March. Now, I thought because it's tropical there would bloom all year, but there were sunflowers to see. And I still say it was worth a visit, because it just was lovely with all these like different tropical plants as well. We did make it over to Magen's Bay. Now, Magen's Bay, again, had that lovely blue water, but it was rather crowded from the people coming from cruise ships. So if you're coming on a cruise ship, there's a lot of different options for different things you could do during the day. You could explore the town. You could head over to Lindquist Beach. There's Sapphire Beach, and Magen's Bay is very popular. And we found it to be a little crowded for us. So we decided, you know what, why don't we just go back to the beach at our resort and do that for the afternoon. So that's what we ended up doing. And then we went next door to the Westin, the Sandbar, and got some pizza there. Now, the Westin has, the resort is like a little bit higher up, and then you take another little quick shuttle ride to get down to the Bowie House location. And that's where we would find the Sandbar, and that's where the beach area is for the people staying at the Westin. And so I do recommend that location for a casual lunch. Then we had dinner over at Mims. So we made a reservation there and had a taxi ride take us there. And I had the grilled mahi-mahi with a mango chutney. That was a yummy chutney. And we did see an iguana on the rocks and had a nice view there of, I think that area is called Botany Bay. And so you have some water there, and there's another little resort there as well. Yesterday was great. We hired a private taxi take us around, and Charlotte Amalie, I've heard Charlotte Amalie or Charlotte Amalie, so I'm not sure. I guess you could pronounce it either way, but we will pop in and I will show you all the different sites we saw yesterday and talk about those. Today we are headed on a ferry to St. Thomas, so join along and I'll take some video of that. And so lovely here. We're having a great time. Our day at St. John. So I have friends that go to St. John. I think they practically go there every year, and they love it there. So I really wanted to make sure I got to St. John, and it is a quick ferry ride over there from St. Thomas. What you do is arrive in Red Hook. And once you arrive in Red Hook, there's plenty of different places to eat there. Since we had ended up getting a bagel on the way there, a bagel sandwich that our taxi driver told us about, we did that instead. But I had read about Lattes in Paradise and Duffy's Love Shack as some ideas there. And as far as the ferries, there's two options. There is a ferry for cars and a ferry for people. So depending on if you have a car, you pick the the ferry that you need to go on. As far as getting tickets, make sure one of you at least has your ID. I found out that I had packed all kinds of things, like my sunscreen and my towel and on, different things, and my little sunglass readers and all this. But I didn't have my ID. But luckily my husband had his, because you need at least one person with an ID to get the ticket for the ferry. So that was interesting to know. Now, once you go do the ferry, I'll pop in some photos of that and video. All right, heading on the ferry to St. John. They have a passenger ferry and a car ferry. And you're going to arrive in an area called Cruise Bay. Now, Cruise Bay has a lot of different restaurants, and I'll talk about that shortly because we did end up eating there. But then what they have are safari taxis, which those ones are like an open air taxi where you're going to join other people on that taxi ride to get over to whatever location you want to go to. Cinnamon Bay is another popular beach to go to, but we wanted to go to the famous Trunk Bay. So now that taxi driver was a little precarious because those drivers go fast around those roads, but we made it there. And once you get to Trunk Bay, then they actually have a rental where you can rent some chairs, or you could rent things like snorkel gear as well. And they did have a little like food and a place for some drinks. I did get a drink and that was tasty. Say they have a nice beach area, but then a little further back on the sand, they do have a shaded area because there's a lot of vegetation. So we ended up putting our chairs back there, so we didn't even need an umbrella. And oh gosh, the water is just so beautiful. I'm going to add some videos for you of that. Here we are at Trunk Bay in St. John. Here is the beach. I'll swim around, show you the ocean. Beautiful water, lovely white sand, lots of people snorkeling. The water there is nice and warm to go in. So highly, highly recommend the Trunk Bay. I can see why it's one of the most famous beaches, and I think it's like one of the top rated beaches of the world. And lovely, lovely. Highly recommend Trunk Bay. Then we took that kind of crazy little safari taxi ride back to the town of Cruise Bay. Plenty of different places to eat. Found it to be very walkable. We ate at a place called the Tap and Still for a burger. Now, I would say this burger was not that expensive and it was tasty. Here's one thing that we found about the food there in the U.S. Virgin Islands. It's expensive. A lot more expensive than, the regular, states. And because the U.S. Virgin Islands are a territory of the U.S., but the regular states, I think it's because we found out that they don't, grow different food on St. Thomas, that they have to import it. So one of our taxi drivers told us, he's like, the only thing we have here, produce here, is rum and babies. So I thought that was funny. And anyway, so that's why the food there is so expensive. So you're going to find, even if you go to like a grocery store, which we did to get some snacks, it was like $10 for like a bag of chips, or maybe like $8, and very expensive for fruit. One of our taxi drivers, I was asking him, like, how do you all afford to buy food here? And he said, you just know living there what to get. Like, grapes are expensive. He said cherries, is going to buy cherries for like $20. He goes, I guess I'm just not going to get some cherries. So just keep in mind that it's going to be more expensive. A lot of places we get like a burger might be like $25. But at this Tap and Still, it was a lot less than that for your burger. So that was great. But overall, I would say in the U.S. Virgin Islands, food is going to be more expensive. Again, it might have been the locations we were going to, because at the resorts, that's a higher price. But even when we were eating in the town of Charlotte Amalie, food was expensive there. So I feel like the locals might know of like little smaller areas to eat at, or when they're at the grocery store, they just know what the prices are, what they can afford. But it is more expensive for sure, getting food there. But back to St. John. I would say I loved St. John. Lovely, lovely. Would love to go back and explore it more. A lot of the island is a national park. Now, we ate dinner back at the resort at the Sunset Cove, and they had live music there. Had a lovely steak salad. that had this dressing. The waitress had recommended the house dressing, and that was tasty. I think it was like it had mango flavor in it. So yummy, yummy. Good morning. It's our final full day in St. Thomas. Today we plan to take a taxi over to Crown Bay Marina, and then we're going to get a ferry over to what they call Water Island. We wanted to make it over to Water Island. So that's popular. A lot of people on cruise ships also do that for a day trip. So what you do is you get to the Crown Bay Marina. So we took a taxi over there, and then we decided to eat lunch before we made it to the island. Now they do have food on the little island too, but just thought, like, I know for sure then where we're going, and we're eating earlier, so my husband doesn't have to wait so long to eat. Some days when we're sightseeing, we have to make sure we get our lunch in there. And so we ate at somewhere called Smoke Fusion. Now our taxi driver wasn't even aware of this. It's a smaller location, but it was really good. We went there right when it opened, like at 11 a.m. and had this beef teriyaki. It was so delicious. So I would definitely recommend that for lunch. And they had some outside seating area there, and it overlooked the marina. This is Smoke Up Fusion Barbecue. Cute little spot to eat. Looks like they're gonna have brisket and teriyaki beef. Sounds yummy. So once you do that, then you just can catch the ferry ride over there. It's a very short ferry ride, like maybe like 10 minutes to get over to the Water Island. Then once you're there, a couple different options as far as transportation. You can rent a golf cart to get around, you can walk, or we also found that there was a little, like a safari taxi kind of thing taking you to the honeymoon beach, and that's where we wanted to go anyways, and the Dingy's Beach Bar was there, and so that worked out well for us. We just took that and we ended up sitting by that beach bar, which had food and had drinks, and you could rent lounge chairs for the afternoon, so it worked out perfectly for us. To Water Island. This is Dingy's Beach Bar. We're at Honeymoon Beach. And my husband got him to get in the water. He doesn't always love to get in the water. I am a California girl. I used to surf back in the day. So I'd love to get in the water, especially if it's going to be warm and clear that I could see things. And you could even just see fish just right there. So it was so fun. Lovely afternoon there. Headed to Water Island. This is Honeymoon Beach. So you can see the actual sand here. Down there, and then over here is the water. So just keep in mind there could be a wait to get back on the ferry right there. We had to wait for one ferry to come and go and get on the next one because it was so full of people trying to get back to their cruise ship. So just keep that in mind. But we did find that the ferry was running a little bit more often because of that, because they wanted to make sure to be able to, accommodate all the people. So that was nice. And we made it back over to Crown Bay and then took our taxi back to the resort. Here we are, our last evening of St. Thomas. Wanted you to be able to enjoy the sunset. We are going to head out to dinner. We had a nice day at Water Island. Went in the water. It was so nice and warm. See the sunset, and the sound you hear are frogs. And at Paradise Point, we had dinner there. I wanted to go at sunset time because I love a sunset dinner, but my husband was like, can we change our reservation time if it's available, because he wanted to relax a little bit more. Sometimes I'm the one who's like, go, let's keep going. And I just have a lot of energy on vacations because I love to see different new things. But it's important to have some relaxing time too. So we went a little bit later, but ended up actually having a view, which was nice, of the different, the town and the lights and the boats lit up and everything. So we had a nice view that way, and had a lovely steak dinner there. And so definitely would recommend that Prime at Paradise Point. It is on more of an upscale, a more expensive dinner, but was delicious. And oh, they had a really yummy cake, this chocolate cake with caramel. We didn't realize it was going to have this caramel, so that was a little surprise and tasty. Now, Friday was the day we were going to go home, and so wanted to see the town once again. And so we made it over to Virgilio's Italian, had some cannelloni there for lunch. That was tasty. So I hope that gave you some great tips of visiting the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Thomas primarily, and a little bit about St. John. Let me know if you've been and the different sites that you loved to see while you were there. I would like to make it back, especially I would like to see a little bit more of St. John next time and explore that a little bit more. And the people there were very welcoming, and I would say that it is a nice place to visit. Just know that food's going to be a little bit more expensive, but you're going to have lovely views. Everybody there does speak English that we talk to, and again, it's a U.S. territory, so it is taking U.S. currency. You're going to want cash for those taxi rides, so bring cash, and you can also withdraw some more cash while you are there. And they do take Visa, MasterCard, things like that, but you're definitely going to need cash for those taxis. Now, when you're flying home, you do go through customs. I thought that was interesting because it's a U.S. territory. I didn't really imagine you go through customs, but you do go through customs, and then you go through like this agriculture where they scan your suitcase through that. So you might need a little extra time at the airport to go through that. We found it all went very quickly, and we had plenty of time that we were waiting around then for our flight. Please consider subscribing and pressing the like button for more great travel tips. I do a whole travel destination series. I have a lot of different videos also on like what to wear for your travels, what to put in your personal item, your cabin bag, things like that. So different Amazon finds for travel. So check those out too. And appreciate your time today. This is Gloria with Graciously Gloria, and happy travels to you.